Last night, I got officially cancelled. Not by trolls, not by some random online critic, but by the leadership of the manosphere itself. And it all started with a debate. One debate that everyone's talking about, but no one's telling the full story. Coach Greg Adams, Andrew Wilson, power moves, hidden biases, and the truth about why voices like mine get silenced. Stick around, because what happened behind the scenes will shock you, and it reveals exactly how this whole community really works. So, apparently, last night I got officially cancelled by the manosphere leadership, right here in Las Vegas. Over the past few days, I've been flooded with messages pointing me to a debate between Coach Greg Adams and Andrew Wilson, who runs a bigger channel called The Crucible. Their recent showdown was titled, "Is Marriage Worth It?" For those who know Coach Greg Adams, he's a former basketball coach, originally from Long Beach, I believe. He's been married once, and that experience seems to have shaped his firm belief that tying yourself to a state-sanctioned contract isn't worth it. Now, I don't want to dissect the debate itself. That part isn't what caught my attention. What really matters is what went down afterward. As many of you know, I've never exactly been on friendly terms with Coach Adams. Historically, I've called him Coach Greg Adams because he has a habit of taking content, line for line, from people like me without giving credit. That's the core of my issue with him. He's tried to brush it off by saying, "We borrow from each other all the time." But the reality is, he's never used my unique phrasing, just the general ideas that I'm not harboring hatred. Far from it. But that history shapes my perspective. That said, you've got to give credit where it's due. Coach Greg Adams is a formidable debater. He's sharp, articulate, and definitely no fool. Coach Greg Adams is usually the picture of composure. In a debate, he's calm, measured, and sticks strictly to the facts. He's not the type to get animated or theatrical. In the manosphere, I'd honestly say that makes him a tough opponent to beat, though, of course, anyone can be beaten. In his recent debate with Andrew Wilson, however, a major point of contention arose. Andrew felt Greg didn't give him enough room to speak. And that criticism wasn't just idle chatter. On a podcast with Rollo Tomassi, Mayan noted the same thing. Greg was over-talking Andrew, cutting him off, and not letting him fully articulate his stance. Andrew even suggested a rematch, hoping to expose Greg Adams as flawed. Greg's response was straightforward and unapologetic. He claimed victory. No evidence, no counters, just a firm assertion that he had won. According to Greg, there was no proof to suggest he lost. In fact, those who challenged him essentially had to undergo a therapy session just to organize a group against him. I'd happily moderate a round 2 between Andrew Wilson and Coach Greg Adams. Ideally, it would be timed and structured, so that every point could be fully expressed. Because here's the thing, part of the problem in the first debate was a fundamental misunderstanding of Andrew's position. For instance, Greg didn't even recognize the concept of secular marriage, a critical detail that changes the context entirely. A properly moderated debate would clear that up and, frankly, showcase the dynamics between the two clearly for everyone watching. So here's the kicker. Those trying to challenge Greg in the debate basically had to gang up 5, 6, 7 to 1 just to get a pat on the back. Despite that, Greg claims he won the debate fair and square. There's no concrete evidence backing that up, just his word. He even noted that Andrew Wilson temporarily took down parts of the debate, but honestly, I'm not getting into that. What really grabbed my attention came afterward. While I was streaming live, another live stream was happening simultaneously, though mine actually had more viewers. I was just in a sweatshirt, keeping it casual, but what happened next wasn't casual at all. I have some sad news for those who've long supported the Red Pill and the Manosphere. For years, I've been part of this circle, but apparently, last night, I was officially cancelled by the Manosphere leadership. Coach Greg Adams casually announced, passive-aggressively, almost mockingly, that they had kicked me out. It was delivered as if it didn't matter, but of course, it does. He emphasized that I didn't leave voluntarily. "They cancelled me," he said. "It wasn't my fault. Don't be mad at me, they cancelled me." He framed it as though he was just trying to help navigate the situation, yet somehow got penalized for it. From my perspective, this speaks volumes about how things are handled in the manosphere. If Coach Greg Adams were just any other figure, someone non-black, white, or otherwise, you'd never hear him publicly declare that a debate alone could justify canceling someone. Sharing ideas and debating intensely is normal, but apparently, that's not always enough to prevent this kind of fallout. So yes, officially, I've been banned from the manosphere. That said, I want to be clear about my perspective on Coach Greg Adams. Outside of our minor dispute, and my own personal gripe with calling him Coach Greg Adams, which I find a bit sleazy, he's not a drama starter. Honestly, he's not the type to stir trouble. I've never known him to pick fights, provoke beefs, or disrupt communities. A big part of his appeal is his versatility. He's not deeply wrapped up in racial narratives, which allows him to navigate a broad spectrum of audiences. He can speak at the 21 convention and engage effectively with both black and white audiences. That's something he's consistently leveraged. By contrast, creators like myself or Obsidian BGSMR focus heavily on black life, the African American experience, and issues specifically impacting black men. That's a very targeted lens, and it naturally limits some broader crossover opportunities in spaces like the mainstream manosphere. Interestingly, both Donovan Sharp and Coach Greg Adams navigated the manosphere proper and gained visibility, but they also faced scrutiny. Donovan Sharp's case was clear-cut. He was a scammer, attempting to sabotage the 21 convention. Greg Adams, however, is a different story. I don't see any legitimate wrongdoing in him. I've known of him for years, but I've never collaborated with him directly, and honestly, he strikes me as someone who plays things straight, without malice or manipulation. Before all this unfolded, there was just a minor dust-up. Someone had tipped me off, but I'd never really had any problems with Coach Greg Adams. I genuinely appreciate his content. He's a talented creator. Sure, I've called him Poach Adams because of the occasional borrowing of ideas, but beyond that, he's not a bad guy. He's just doing his thing. In my honest opinion, he's been an asset to the black manosphere. I wouldn't even call him a diversity hire. Whether he's black or white, Coach Greg Adams has contributed significant value, particularly around the experiences of divorced men and fathers, topics that resonate universally. The idea of removing him from the manosphere, or suggesting that he should be, is completely ridiculous. Part of the complexity here, though, is that Coach Greg Adams is African American. This, I think, has contributed to some of the challenges he and others like Donovan Sharp have faced. Over time, as the manosphere has evolved, or perhaps lost some of its influence, the dynamics have shifted. The old guard, like Rollo Tomassi, still exists, but the landscape isn't what it used to be. Increasingly, some members are veering into alt-right or politically charged spaces. Figures like Fresh and Fit and Manifest are moving toward politically oriented content, primarily on the white side. As a result, large conventions have dwindled, and the community has fragmented. When controversies arise, like discovering shadowy alt-right accounts, creators like Donovan Sharp and Coach Greg Adams are left without a strong support network, caught in a space that no longer fully aligns with their message. Greg Adams could probably argue against much of what I'm saying. He's capable of standing on his own without support. But I genuinely believe that if he had spent more time building a presence in the black manosphere and cultivating a wider audience, no one would ever have claimed he was kicked out of the community. This situation, in many ways, serves as a wake-up call, not just for him, but for all of us. The black manosphere has, frankly, failed in some respects. One area where we succeeded was in attempting to create a space for our voices. But the reality is, the moment outsiders don't like you, they have the power to shut you out. They didn't do this to Greg Adams' wife, but they did it to him. I didn't watch the entire debate, but based on everything I know about Greg Adams, he's a logical, respectful guy. Sure, he throws in the occasional subtle dig. And like any creator, he might overestimate his own value from time to time, but has never been a problem in the community. What he's facing now is exactly what he tried to avoid, racial dynamics influencing how he's perceived. Greg deliberately tried to steer clear of racial politics in the manosphere, but the reality is that some of these folks are acting the way they are because of race. Many of the white members in this space openly dislike black people, and the only black figures they embrace are the ones who align perfectly with their worldview. So here's one of the rare times you'll hear me defend Coach Greg Adams. Even though I don't particularly like him personally, I can see that he's been treated unfairly, and the criticism he's getting is less about his work and more about biases within the community itself. I've never seen Greg Adams act problematically. In debates, he's always respectful, choosing his words carefully. There's nothing he could have said in that particular interview or podcast that would justify the harsh reactions I've seen, people calling him all kinds of names and attacking him personally. It struck me as completely uncalled for. Back when I was active in the manosphere and effectively leading on the architecture side of things, I made a conscious decision. I would never try to integrate the black manosphere with the white manosphere. The answer was always no. People reached out wanting interviews or collaborations, and I always declined because I already knew what would happen. And honestly, what's happening to Greg Adams now is exactly the outcome I anticipated. Greg primarily works with white creators, not black creators. While some of his audience is black, his reach and versatility extend far beyond that. Black men in the manosphere need to recognize the importance of creating their own spaces. As time moves on, you'll notice a growing trend. The framework these groups promote leans increasingly white, conservative, and Republican. And while I personally vote Republican because I align with those values, I understand what this really means in practice. It means keeping a distance from anyone who doesn't fit their preferred profile. At the end of the day, we need to focus on building our own spaces. Coach Greg Adams probably understands this on some level, whether he admits it or not. Personally, I've never trusted him, nor have I ever wanted to collaborate. I don't have any attachment to that circle. Historically, many of the guys over there, though not all, have been shady or unreliable, Rollo Tomassi included, especially after his alt account came to light. But that's beside the point. The key takeaway is this: Black men need to take the initiative to create their own platforms and speak openly about the issues that directly affect their lives. For too long, we've relied on spaces that were not designed with our experiences in mind, trying to fit into frameworks that cater primarily to other audiences. While those spaces may offer visibility or access to larger communities, the reality is that they come with built-in limitations. They are structured around perspectives that may not align with the nuanced challenges that Black men face, especially when it comes to topics like fatherhood, relationships, mental health, or the specific societal pressures we experience. If we continue to place our voices in environments where our concerns are secondary or peripheral, our messages will always be filtered, diluted, or outright dismissed. Creating your own platforms is not just a recommendation, it's a necessity for authenticity, influence, and long-term impact. Even if your resources aren't on par with what larger creators or established platforms have, it is still vital to build something for yourself. You don't need high-end equipment, massive marketing budgets, or a polished team to start. All you need is your perspective and your voice. The power of grassroots movements and independent voices in the digital age cannot be overstated. Platforms like blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, social media pages, and forums have allowed countless voices to reach communities that traditional spaces would never have acknowledged. Black men who are willing to speak their truth, share their lived experiences, and build authentic communities are creating a foundation for future generations. These spaces allow for conversation on topics that are often ignored or misunderstood in broader, mainstream forums. Topics like fatherhood in the Black community, navigating divorce, mental wellness, personal responsibility, and the systemic challenges we face in daily life. By owning the narrative, we ensure that our perspective is front and center, rather than a footnote in someone else's discussion. Until we establish and grow these spaces, interactions or debates with other groups will never be fair or truly balanced. We've seen time and again that when Black men enter mainstream manosphere spaces, the rules are often skewed against us. The narrative can easily be twisted, our contributions minimized, and our intentions misrepresented. There's a tendency in these spaces to dismiss critiques or objections by reframing them as personal attacks or overly sensitive reactions. Worse yet, they can claim that discussions are race-neutral when, in practice, the underlying dynamics often reflect biases, whether conscious or not. The reality is that these spaces were not designed for us, and until we create our own, we will continue to be at a disadvantage. The challenge is not just about representation, it's about fairness, accuracy, and the ability to control how our stories are told and interpreted. Greg Adams' recent experience serves as a perfect example. According to him, he wasn't removed from the Black manosphere, he was excluded from the white side. This distinction is critical because it highlights the systemic imbalance that exists. Even someone like Greg, who is highly articulate, respected, and versatile, faced scrutiny and exclusion when operating in spaces where racial dynamics and biases influence the perception of credibility, contribution, and value. If such a prominent figure can be marginalized despite his accomplishments, it underscores the importance of building independent platforms where Black men's voices are prioritized, amplified, and protected from distortions or unfair treatment. It's not about resentment or isolation. It's about creating environments where we can operate on our terms, establish standards that reflect our realities, and engage in meaningful dialogue without fear of dismissal or misrepresentation. The broader lesson here is that Black men must fully embrace the responsibility of building infrastructure for their own communities. This responsibility is not merely a suggestion or a casual option. It is a crucial and urgent necessity if we are to cultivate spaces that reflect our realities, values, and aspirations. It extends far beyond the surface-level act of content creation. While producing videos, articles, podcasts, or social media posts can be powerful tools, true community infrastructure requires a holistic approach. It involves creating ecosystems where mentorship, education, dialogue, and cultural growth are not just possible, but actively encouraged and sustained. When we take ownership of this process, we no longer rely on the structures, platforms, or narratives that others impose on us. Instead, we cultivate spaces that are authentically ours, spaces designed with the unique challenges, experiences, and goals of Black men in mind. By embracing this responsibility, we ensure that younger generations have concrete role models to learn from, platforms where their voices are validated, and resources tailored specifically to their lived experiences. Many young Black men today struggle to find guidance that resonates with their realities because the spaces they access, whether mainstream media, educational systems, or even certain online communities, are often filtered through perspectives that do not fully understand or reflect their circumstances. By building our own infrastructure, we create environments where mentorship is not optional but central, where young men can access the wisdom, advice, and lived experience of those who have navigated similar challenges. This is about creating continuity, passing down knowledge, and ensuring that lessons learned through struggle and success are not lost to the next generation. These platforms are more than just venues for consumption. They are hubs for debate, collaboration, and support. They allow for dynamic conversations where ideas can be tested, challenged, and refined without fear of being misrepresented or dismissed. In a world where the dominant narrative often marginalizes or misinterprets Black experiences, having spaces where we can define the story on our own terms is invaluable. Within these spaces, we have the freedom to experiment, innovate, and tackle topics that are either taboo, ignored, or misunderstood in mainstream circles. This could mean exploring the complexities of fatherhood, navigating divorce, discussing mental health challenges, or addressing systemic inequities, subjects that are frequently overlooked or simplified in broader discourse. By creating and nurturing our own ecosystems, we are also setting the stage for cultural growth. Culture is not inherited passively. It is shaped through deliberate action, intentional communication, and sustained engagement. Movements, ideas, and communities thrive when there is a clear infrastructure that supports growth, education, and participation. When Black men build these structures, they not only provide immediate support for those within their communities but also lay the groundwork for long-term influence, sustainability, and empowerment. Influence, in this context, is not merely about visibility or popularity. It is about earning authority and respect through authentic contributions, consistency, and the ability to create meaningful impact that resonates beyond the individual. Importantly, building infrastructure is also about reclaiming autonomy and agency. For too long, many Black men have had to navigate environments that were not designed for them, adapting their voices, strategies, and behaviors to fit external expectations. While it is possible to participate in these spaces, the cost is often the dilution of one's perspective, the suppression of authentic experiences, and the risk of being co-opted or misrepresented. By constructing our own frameworks, we take back the power to determine what topics are prioritized, how dialogue is structured, and which voices are amplified. This self-determination is crucial for maintaining integrity, fostering genuine dialogue, and ensuring that the stories, struggles, and successes of Black men are presented with accuracy, nuance, and depth. The creation of these platforms also encourages community accountability and collective growth. When Black men engage in shared projects, whether online or offline, it fosters collaboration and mutual support. Individuals contribute their skills, knowledge, and creativity, enriching the community as a whole while simultaneously gaining access to mentorship, guidance, and constructive feedback. Over time, this collective approach strengthens the community's capacity to address challenges, respond to opportunities, and innovate solutions tailored to its members' unique circumstances. In doing so, it also sets a precedent for younger generations, demonstrating that progress is most sustainable when it is built collectively and intentionally, rather than relying solely on external validation or intervention. Finally, the act of building infrastructure within Black communities is intrinsically linked to cultural preservation and legacy. The platforms we create today serve as repositories of knowledge, wisdom, and shared experience. They provide continuity, ensuring that the lessons learned by one generation can inform and inspire the next. By taking ownership of our own spaces, we affirm the value of our voices, experiences, and perspectives. We ensure that Black men are not merely participants in conversations dictated by others, but are instead architects of their own narratives, shapers of culture, and drivers of movements that are both authentic and sustainable. In short, this responsibility is a call to action. It is about more than content. It is about creating ecosystems where mentorship, dialogue, cultural growth, and community support are not just possible but thriving. It is about defining our own narratives, safeguarding our experiences, and empowering future generations to navigate life with clarity, confidence, and resilience. By embracing this mission, we ensure that Black men are not only heard but respected, that our stories are preserved, and that the platforms we build today will serve as the foundation for a stronger, more empowered, and more self-determined tomorrow. Ultimately, the message is clear. Build your own platforms, speak your truth, and don't rely on spaces that weren't designed for you. Stop waiting for approval from communities or leaders whose priorities do not align with your own. Recognize the value in your perspective, the legitimacy of your experiences, and the importance of creating structures that empower Black men to thrive independently. This is not merely a call to action. It's a blueprint for self-determination, influence, and cultural sustainability. Every step taken to create your own platform, every voice amplified within these spaces, contributes to a stronger, more resilient community that cannot be sidelined or dismissed. The sooner we internalize this principle, the stronger and more unified our voice becomes, and the more we can ensure that our stories, struggles, and successes are heard and respected on our own terms.